The PSA Foundation, we chair a group of 14 Squash for Development organizations that you can see are spread out throughout the world. And this is the first time, and it actually makes me really emotional that we have them all together. So we were able to bring 10 of these organizations together from all the world for the first time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Dikana, who is here. So I'm going to ask all of you who work in Squash for Development organizations to please stand up. I'm going to introduce all of you, so I'm going to very quickly, Dikana, if you can just please introduce yourself, where you're from.
Hi everyone, my name is Dikana. I'm from Ecoli Youth Empowerment. We are based in South Africa. I'm the co-founder of the program and part of the documentary that you saw. That's one of our centers where we operate. That's actually where I started playing squash. So the court is still in that condition, but it continues to produce champions. The highest ranked player from there was number 4 in the country at his peak. So we're still using it full force. We've got over 50 kids that show up there to play squash, and it's just amazing to be part of this community and do the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dikana. So we're going to quickly pass the microphone around.
Hi all, my name is Esteban Espinal. I'm the founder and executive director of Squash Urbano Colombia, based in Cartagena, Colombia. I've been running the program for 10 years. Actually, this is our 10th anniversary. We have 105 kids, split evenly between girls and boys. Actually, we have more girls, so that's makes us very proud. And very happy to be here, and very happy to see Nick Matthew, because actually one of our girls that goes to boarding school in the US gets coached by Nick. So great to see you, man. And thank you all.
I'm Jennifer Sawyer from Squash South Africa. We have 36 development programs around South Africa, including Egoli. We have about 4,500 kids that we coach probably every 3 weeks in different development areas around South Africa.
Hello everyone, Nitzan Mori is the name. I'm the founder of Squash Bond Israel. I think about 10 years ago we started playing with the idea of how we can use the game of squash, but more the squash culture, to create social impact. And we created a platform where kids from different backgrounds in Israel are coming in. We're focused on youth development and social inclusion. We had the privilege to work with hundreds of Muslim and Jewish kids around Israel, to bring them to the same court, to play squash together and learn about life values, and to work as one team. And I think we are all looking on how to expand, grow, and make squash a force in the world for making a real change. Thanks.
Hi guys, I'm Rosie. I'm the founder of Squashinhos, which is in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. We currently have 100 kids involved in our program, and we teach them English, Spanish and squash from Monday to Friday. And yeah, it's fantastic, and it's also fantastic to meet everyone. Everyone else has a program, finally. And thanks for organising it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think I know most of you, and those of you who don't know me, my name is Satinder Bajwa, mostly known as Baj for short. So about 15 years ago, I founded a program which handles all the problems that South Africa has, that Israel has, we have in India and culturally, and we're trying to solve them through squash. You know, we've got a melting pot, 4 religions all coming together and all playing squash on the same court. But most of all, we're empowering them through the sport and educating them. And today we have about 12 graduates, about 5 tennis and squash coaches, 6 referees, national level referees. And this thing is growing and it's working. And thank you all for supporting it.
Hi everyone, I'm Aaron. I run a company called Calder Community Squash here in the UK. We create tailor-made squash programs to sort of fit the needs of the community. So we run programs with refugees, people with disabilities. We started a program called Squash from the Mosque, which is fortunately now a national program. We work with England Squash, just trying to make the game as accessible as possible and reach out to as many people as possible.
Hello, my name is Daisy. I'm the director at Squash Dreamers. We work in Oman, Jordan and the Middle East. And we're dedicated to empowering young refugee and underprivileged girls through sports and education. We work with 45 girls aged 8 to 18 who are from Jordan, Palestine, Somalia, Syria, Sudan. And we provide them with this long-term program which includes squash training, fitness training, well-being and social skills support, English instruction. We do one-to-one academic support in every single subject. We provide meals, we provide food support for families, health and dental checkups, and try to support these young women with very, very, very few opportunities in reaching their full potential through squash, academics and scholarships. And we have 7 kids who are coming to the UK on scholarship this year.
Hello everybody, my name is Mark from Ghana. I'm the secretary for the Squash Federation of Ghana, and I happen to participate in the Commonwealth Games in 2022 in Birmingham, so it's great to be back here. Going back, I realized that there was a huge gap behind me in the sense that squash was dead for over 2 decades. So being part of the Squash Federation, we launched the youth development last year, and then we have currently over 50 kids on board. And then it's good to meet with you all so that at least you guys could point at least the federation in the right direction to grow the sports in Africa. Thank you.
All right, so to start our next session, I am going to introduce they'll introduce themselves, but I'm going to introduce our moderator, who's Renato Paiva from Access Youth Academy. We also have Nicol David and Mariana from the Nicol David organization. We have Michael Hill from Rackets Q, and we have David Kay from SCA. So if you guys want to take a seat, because we're going to go a little bit more in depth in your organization. So please welcome our panelists. And I'm going to give you have the other mic? I think the hand
pass it around.
Yeah, you pass it around, the germs.
You put it
I'll hold that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah.
It's like you pass the germ.
You can use,
We'll pass it.
I think you can use one of these if you want
Okay.
to keep it permanently.
Sure.
All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Press the button.
and then,
Can you hear me? All right. Hi guys. My name is Renato Paiva. I run Access Youth Academy in San Diego and now in Los Angeles. There we go. Olympic Games coming up. And I'm originally from Brazil, and I'm happy to be here hosting these amazing people and talking to you about the work that we do. So let's start this way. Introduce yourself. No one knows about you, but let's try this.
I tried. So hi everyone, I'm Nicol David, former World Squash Champion, and I now run the foundation, the Nicol David organization, with my co-founder and CEO, Mariana De Reyes from Colombia. And we launched the foundation 2 years ago. After my retirement, I just wanted to find a way to give back, and this was my way to give back to Malaysia. And we offer an after-school program for low to mid-income children, squash training and English tutoring classes. And we currently have 110 children, and now we are slowly bringing in another cohort. But also we will talk a little bit more on what we want to do next, so to open other pillars to help women empowerment as well. So that's what we do.
I'm going to briefly show a video here.
I'll move so you can see it.
Oh, sorry.
What is your ambition? Raise up your hand. Familia.
I want to be a champion. I am Familia. Every Monday and Wednesday I will go to NGO. It's a happy place after school. My favorite thing in NGO is squash because I'm a very good squash player. I can play and work hard always. In forehand and backhand I can play nicely. My favorite activities in the English class is I like to sing the song and I like to study. I like to listen like it's an English class. I want to be a champion because I want my father and mother be proud and my coaches have to be proud of me too. I am proud of myself.
I was proud with my daughter since she joined in NDU. Hi, I'm Xavier. My daughter is Familia. She in this NDU since 2 years. I see a lot of changes with my daughter. Since she was very quiet and alone, a lot of changes great. The second one, she was mingled with their friends. She can break from the nervous. I can see a lot of changes from their attitude. She was learned the sportsmanship. The words is very powerful words. And then the second words, never give up. Whatever in study also, the study also. Let's say she gets 70 in the BM. She say, never mind daddy, I get 70. Next exam I try to 100. She never give up. Every time. How she take this squash in the mind, in the heart, I was very, very surprised. Like she on the tap phone, she was seeing Miss Mariana match, Nicol David match. I said, what do you know, Pemia? No, this is professional match that she was teaching. I'm ready to thank to NDO because my daughter, she was alone, she don't talk to anyone, can change a lot. I'm so happy and I have to thank to Mariana and Nicol David. I'm really, I don't know how to, that's so surprised and so happy with my family members as well. Thank you, NDO.
Before we introduce Michael, I want to show, since we're already on it, I'm going to show you the video for Rackets Cube so you can have a little bit of a... Ooh. That's not the video.
What?
There we go. Sorry.
Rackets Cubed is a charity that delivers education, sport and nutrition. It's to improve the lives of the children in UK.
The programmes are held in aspirational venues at university and local schools.
The sports on offer are tennis, squash and paddle. But also table tennis, badminton and rollerball.
And is an opportunity to try something new.
The programme is for Key Stage 2 pupils.
It's a weekly after-school programme that lasts for 1 year.
When you come in, we do 2 groups. You either decide you do maths or rackets games first, and then you go to do your maths when the session's over, and then you eat. I love coming here every week, and as you can see, everyone is enjoying tennis.
It's like a really packed-in programme. Rackets Cube currently operates in over 12 cities.
And more locations are opening every single year. Rackets Cube makes me feel really happy and sporty. My favourite thing about Rackets Cube is doing squash. Everyone's included and it's equal and it's a fun sport that everyone can play.
The children in my school really improved in maths from this program, and also I've become better at racket games. It's sports, education and nutrition all in one.
I really like the venue because if you fall down, you would fall down on a very soft floor and you wouldn't get hurt. And also there's something covering us from the rain, and we really enjoy how our teacher is very kind and funny.
My favourite comment on this game is the foods.
Everyone loves it and it tastes really good and it's also healthy and nutritious.
And there's a lot of opportunities to do your own thing, be a better person. And overall, it just makes me feel in a way lighter mood.
Thank you for the nice environment and thank you for the very nice lunch.
Thank you, Rackets!
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Michael Hill. I was the founder of Rackets Cube. It was very much inspired by the US programs, what was called Lucia, and David will talk a little bit about how that's evolved. I lived in New York for the 90s, living a rather crazy life, and sometimes when stress got pretty high, I'd get on a squash court to try and de-stress. But I came across what was, my wife's from New England, so between Boston and New York, I came across the Greg Zaff and George Polsky launching programs, and I thought at the time, okay, America is a special place, and especially with respect to philanthropy, is almost unique. But it set off something in my own mind about what could I do later in life. So I retired in 2016, and one of the things I did was I was captain of squash actually at the Roehampton Club, which is a club in southwest London, a multi-sports club, and persuaded them to launch a program. Next to the club is the UK's largest council estate. We started with tennis and squash. Squash has been the heart of it, I must be honest. Adriana and PSA have been brilliant partners, and we could not have done this without the squash world, no question about it. And many of the other sports have followed, and I don't see that as a threat at all. You know, in fact, one of our strengths is we'll do multi-sports, because sometimes you haven't got a squash court. You know what, you're probably not going to play squash, but you know, we can play tennis, or we can play pickle, or we can play wallball. But what was sort of interesting is we were never about trying to create elite squash players. We wanted to use sport as engagement, because the general feeling was, look, if somebody's active, a child's active, they've probably got a lot of social complexity, they're probably going to have better, hopefully they'll get better physical and mental health outcomes, and that allowed them to engage better at school. But what was interesting is we grew, and we're now, say, 12 cities, about 35 programs, about 1,000 kids come through a week. What we're finding was our attendance rates were near almost 100%. And we have about 55% of girls, 45% boys. The diversity of the programs will just be reflective of the community, so it can be, full diversity depending on which city we're in. But what was interesting was we figured it wasn't the maths. They do like the sport, but it was the food. It was the food poverty that existed in the UK even prior to COVID. The children were so hungry they were coming in. And obviously that's got materially worse through COVID. So actually separate from this, we've got now quite embedded community programs, food programs and activity that sit alongside this. Now the interesting, because we've got multi-sports and we've got 3 elements, although it's quite complex, it does allow us a much broader range of partners and funders, and I think that's really helped us, because squash is a great sport. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for it, but it's not the only sport, and some of the other sports have a lot more economic heft, and if you can engage with them, they can support you significantly. So.
Okay, well, we'll go definitely more in depth on that as well. And then finally, as Michael mentioned, I want to show you the last video. This is where it all was, it all started, I think.
I wasn't really into the sport of squash. I didn't know what it was. I was new to it. But once they promised academic support in college, I knew it was a program to go to.
What makes SCA unique is the fact that they're really putting in the effort to bring kids in from these communities that have no access to a lot of the things that they're offering.
The goal right from the get-go was to change kids' lives. And you have to do well in school to be successful in life. So just playing squash was not what this was going to be about.
We have squash in academics. So during academics, we can do our homework, and at squash, we play squash.
During the program, if we didn't have homework, they would give us things that we could be doing to be productive.
A lot of students think that they just have to come do homework and then they get to go play squash, but it's much more than that.
When I first started, I was very hot-headed. I would get mad and stuff. But with squash, it taught me that you may lose some, but you can always win some at the same time.
Squash has been like way of life for me. It's helped me to connect with my younger peers and brings people together.
What's so special about our programs is that our students begin with us in elementary or middle school and work year-round in our programs in a variety of different capacities, not just academically, but also developing as squash players and as young people. And we stay with them all the way through high school and through college.
I went back as an alumni, volunteered in the classroom, did a lot of academic support, which is where my passion is. And now I'm there as a full-time staff working with 60 middle schoolers. At school, they go to learn their basic subjects. At squash, they're getting that support, but they're also getting life.
Right. All right, so I'll please take a seat, you guys, and Dave, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm David Kay. I'm representing SEA. I'm a senior advisor for SEA. Before my life at SEA, I ran the Chicago program called Metro Squash for 18 years, and very pleased to be here with you today.
Okay, guys, so let's start with the movement, how it all started. You guys saw Greg Zaff speaking a little bit. I believe that the first one that tried the system, so I'll give that to you, Dave. Can you give us a little bit of a scope on how it all started? You were, I think, the 4th or 5th program, so give us a history on that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think it's great to be talking about grassroots because that was how all these programs start. Greg started in 1996 in Boston using borrowed squash courts, started with about 10, 15 students. And then from there, the movement went to New York, Philadelphia, Harlem, and the Bronx. Chicago was the first program to start outside of the East Coast, a sort of traditional hub of squash in the U.S. And now we're serving, now we have 21 programs in the SEA network across the United States, and then 6 international partners. And I think there's 3 things that really unify all of our programs, regardless of size. Some have grown quite large, but over a third of our programs have budgets that are under $300,000 a year. And the first is that we're serving low-income students or under-resourced students from backgrounds where they have limited opportunities. And the second is that it's not just about squash, as you heard Greg say, that there's a significant component of the program that's academics and enrichment related. And I think the third element that we think is very important is the long-term trajectory. Students in the SEA network can stay as long as 12 years with a program, so through middle school, high school, and through college. And that's far longer than they will likely spend with any other institution in their lives. So with that focus, you can have, I think, a very transformative impact. It's a relatively high resource model, but it does have very life-changing results.
Thank you. Then now, crossing to England, you learn about this and then you picked up and your program transcends squash. So tell us more about how do you land to more sports? We just learned more about food. Tell us more about here.
So I spent some time with when we were thinking about how to create this. I sat down with Greg and George and Tim, who were on the video, and walked through their model, saw their facilities, the Boston facility at Northeastern University, and then George is up in Harlem and the development. And I realised what they had was special, but I didn't feel comfortable we could replicate that in the UK. Even in London, we're not very few dinners are going to go and raise 1 to 2 million on a dinner. And if you go up to Wolverhampton or Middlesbrough or Wigan, it is just not realistic. So, but of course, we were solving a slightly different equation. They were lacking in squash courts. We were not lacking in squash courts. In fact, we had underutilized squash courts. So the original idea was, well, why don't we use the squash courts? They're not being used for the children to come in and work in partnership with the schools. And so the marginal cost for the host site is actually quite low for the actual squash provision. Then we realised, God, these kids are hungry because they had food poverty anyway. They need food, and so it was the food bit was a side show at the beginning. We didn't realise how important it was, but when we started seeing the attendance rates, and to get 100% attendance rates out of some of these communities is unheard of. And then we realised how important food was. So then we started working with the food providers, and food got in. Maths was always there. This was always about educational engagement. So, but the three elements sort of emerged very fast, and food is, to be honest, at the moment, an essential thing in life for all of us. So food's not going anywhere, from our programs. Very integral.
Thank you, Nicole. So. You play the highest level, you've done everything in squash, and then how did that translate to wanting to do something like this? What was the drive to do this?
Well, before I retired, I really thought that I wanted to give back. So the 2 years, I obviously saw all the urban squash movement that was going in the US when I was competing at the US Open and other tournaments there. And I thought that was really a great initiative that I could probably do something in Malaysia as well. So 2 years before I was about to retire, I was training in Colombia, and Mariana, being a former squash player herself for Colombia, she used to work in a corporate office, and we've been friends for a long time, and we were just wanting to. So when I touched base with her saying that this is what I want to do after I retire, I want to put a foundation together, and it's like, but to be honest, in my mind, as a squash player, how do I start? And so having a background of the corporate world and combining it together, it really made such a difference when she's showing me, you need to make sure this is set, everything's in place, the structure has to be very clear, because if not, your name can, I know for a fact that my name in Malaysia can go somewhere, but it doesn't carry the whole weight. You need a good program, and so that's where it all started. All the experience that I gained from squash throughout my 20 years of contributing for the country, now I want to contribute back in a different way. So we all here are squash players. Those who haven't played squash, you have to start playing. But you know what sport does. It gives values. It gives a great foundation. We all know that will last a lifetime, and this foundation is exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted to use sport to bring values for kids. We want them to be good kids, not squash champions. Obviously, they are squash champions, like woohoo, great. But it's really about creating good people through sport, and also having the education side. We use English because Malaysia, their proficiency of English is going down a little bit more. So that's why. And also, my mom was an English teacher before, so that just made it so much better. That it helped me in my life, and I knew that this will help these kids to open doors to universities locally and also hopefully internationally as well. So that's how this came about. And we start them when they are 8 years old, when they are sent in grade 2, and we see them through their primary years. In Malaysia, we have primary and secondary, so we take them through 5 years. But hopefully we'll have another program that leads them up to university. So that's the aim.
Mariana, so this one's for you. So you have you are raising, having these programs are not something sometimes cheap. I run one in San Diego, and we started with a budget of $118,000, and now it becomes a little bit more than that with a bigger program, a bigger facility. Tell us a little bit how it's to raise money, or how do you fund your great program back home?
Well, that's always the toughest question, right? Is how you have something that gives so much value, but how you capture it. And I think we all struggle in that, of course. Malaysia is a great place. We have Nicole that has obviously this pull power as a brand, but like she said, we cannot do it just with the face. We still have a program that needs to be structured. So what we found is that the more formal you are, the better you are to ask for money. So you have to be legally set up, you have to have clear constitution, you need to know what you're going to do, who you're going to serve, you need to have partnership with the schools, with the government. You can have a lot of good intentions, but you need an institutional backing to you. So that's something that we were very formal to do. And then we've just, I won't say lucky, but I do feel very fortunate because we managed to apply for grants in Malaysia. Malaysia has a lot of social grants, and we got 60% of our funding comes from grants from Malaysia. Not the government even, it's organizations that give grants for social development, and then we really look out for corporate sponsors. So we have Mercedes-Benz, we have insurance companies, but it's all about PR and connecting with these people and trying to find what they want to invest in for social returns. So we have the children's pillar, which is called Little Legends. That's the name of our program. We put it like that because we have a legend in Malaysia. So Little Legends didn't feel like we were being a bit snobbish. But now looking for more money, we're opening a women's pillar. So we realized, we've only been 2 years in our program, that children can do a lot, but we also can enhance more with the same community that we work with. So we are launching a program in 3 weeks that is for the mothers of the children. So if we want to impact the whole family, we think that it's not just the child, but it just is the mother, and mothers have a huge load. So opening a women's pillar has now provided additional funding to our foundation. So it's with whatever we have, is just try to have reliable products that we can put out there, let's say, for brands and corporates to come in. So far so good, but yes, I agree with you, it's still $200,000 to $300,000 every year we have to wake up and ask for, but yeah, I think structure plan helps a lot. Yeah.
I find amazing how programs evolve and how they grow to the next level and how the family became a big deal for you guys. David, this one's for you. Different than here in England, that courts were not a problem. In the US, courts can be a problem. One example is my home city. In San Diego, there was no courts to play, so we were borrowing courts and renting courts on the mercy of squash clubs. SCA has many facilities now with either built courts all over the country or now building more. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's the growth pattern in terms of courts and kids, and how do you see this kind of shaping up the future of US squash, and how, especially maybe, how the Olympics can come into play here?
Yes, thank you. And I think a lot of we benefited in some ways early on from the North American courts, or the change from North American courts to hardball. Like, for example, in Chicago, we were able to utilize the University of Chicago old squash courts that were underutilized because they were built for the hardball game. And universities in general were great partners for urban squash programs. Boston and Northeastern, Harlem and Columbia, many examples. And then we were fortunate enough to start small with a handful of students, build support, build community, build a network of fundraising support. I think being part of the grassroots program means you just wake up and go to bed every day thinking about how to raise money, and that's just part of the deal. But initially, through the first 5 to 10 years of the programs, I think through the first 20, 25 years, it was really building to that point where you could start a capital campaign where you could raise $6 to $10 million and to be able to build an 8 to 10 court facility. That's changing slightly with the SCA model. For example, in Bridgeport, Connecticut, SCA's gone in and is now building an 8-court center, and we've got Arnie here, who's we're joining Arnie on the outdoor squash. And one of the courts there will be an outdoor squash court as well. So I think we're starting to see the opportunity to be a bit more forward-thinking about starting programs in markets, and rather than starting with a couple of North American courts or converted racquetball courts, to really be aggressive and forward-minded about investing in building courts. But that, I think, is still going to be relatively rare. And I think SEA has contributed to Kevin's goals of increasing access. We built over 100 squash courts through SEA programs, And actually now we have, I think, about 30 plus squash courts in construction currently, 4 or 5 different programs that will be coming online in the next couple of years.
Thank you, David. Michael, so in the US, philanthropy is a big deal. Part of the culture, people give money. I've always heard that the UK is not the same way. But you have maybe the largest program in our cohort. So tell us more how you fund your program in so many cities, so many kids. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so we've just finished our financial year, so we had revenues of about £550,000, and I'll come on to where we source that because that's evolved over time. But we ask for many of our partners, including virtually all the host partners, to give us access to the courts and the teaching rooms, and often the food, but not depending on the wealth of the site, free of charge. So 95% of the sites do that. We give the infrastructure. So our estimated, and a lot of food gets donated to us by local faith groups and Fair Share, City Harvest, which is a US idea that's over here as well. We're very close to both of those. So we think our contribution in kind that we don't pay for is about 2 million. So the 500,000 of cash, or just over, is probably getting 2.5 million of value. But to get there, we need employees. We started obviously volunteers, and that worked fine for the first couple of years, but it's just not sustainable. So we decided that we were going to go for structural grants, multi-year grants, and so we targeted 3 or 4. There's some philanthropy is not the same level as the US, but we do have some philanthropy. But what we also have, there are a lot of foundations and government organisations that you can access if you've got a track record. So what we did, we targeted there's London Marathon, which is one of the biggest fundraisers for sport in the UK, Sport England, National Lottery, and we approached them with a plan about 5 years ago. They gave us a little grant the first year. We said, look, no commitment, but if we do a good job, we'll do another year. And we went through that journey, we scaled. So those entities now give us 3-year funding, and that represents about 300,000 of our 500,000, more or less. Then we asked for people to pay something towards it, and it's only a contribution to cost. And we work with the schools and a foundation. That's about 25%, and the rest are just donations, fundraisers. It's hard work. No question, hard work.
Yeah, everyone that runs one of those knows how hard it is to raise money. Nicole, Olympic Games. So funny enough, when I met you, it was about trying to get the Olympics to 12 or?
It was London, yeah.
Yeah, we got it now, 8 years later. So how do you use the Olympic hook with your kids? Is that making an impact already when you talk to them, or not yet?
No, to be honest, our kids that come in are just all from public school kids. So we are partnered for public schools around the facility, and we just present our program to the schools, and the parents just sign them up. So we don't have any criteria for these kids. And that's where we got like 50-50 girls and boys in the program, and 110 kids. So this is just a testament to just, once you set no criteria, you have more girls participating, and then we can say, hey, there's the Olympic Games, your kid could have something to dream for. But seeing our kids, and in the beginning, we start setting goals for themselves. And when you start them at the first year, or how they set goals for themselves, they only see what is around them. But they want to be a policeman as their father, or trying to be something that firefighter, a soldier for the country. And then a year later, we ask them to do the same goal settings, and then you have some that wants to be a world squash champion, or they want to be an astronaut, or an engineer. And because we want to open their minds to possibilities, and we want to give them exposure to different things. And through the English program, we also give more a thematic way of learning. So a lot of different themes like sportsmanship, different things about financial literacy, all these things through English. And and then they are exposed to different things. And so from there, obviously we'll be sharing more about the Olympic Games, but they are already feeling that they have an identity. They are now squash players. They are little legends in their school, so they'll wear their shirts and they feel like they have something to identify as now. So once you can capture that with the kids, then they will decide what they want to do. We are not there to force them to play for the country or for anything. They need to decide whether they want more training, and we can hopefully help provide that as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. So, 10 more minutes, more or less?
Yeah, 8. So we can
8 more minutes. So, an open question to you. If you have any questions to one of the panelists, if you want to just put your hand up and the mic might get to you. Any questions? Here we go.
I'm not going to pass the mic. Sorry.
So I would love to start a program in my hometown, and there are plenty of kids programs. What we don't have are coaches or people who can teach the game. How do you, yeah.
We can help. Let's go. So actually, I think when we started our foundation, we were very worried about coaches, and we were worried about who can coach the children. So Nicole actually is the mastermind, but I'll do the speaking then. That she said, I want to make anyone be able to be a coach. And I thought she was crazy. And what she said is, we're going to go to universities and we're going to get interns. So we decided to go to the psychology department of universities, and we told them the idea that we wanted them to do their internship as squash coaches. And we actually were surprised that all of them said yes. They were like, of course, just send the job description. And we're like, okay, cool. And we sent the job description, and all of a sudden we had 5 interns that were female. They were psychology students, and Nicole taught them how to coach. Because you have to remember that when you teach a beginner, they don't know anything, and you don't need to be the best player. You just need to know where to feed the ball. You just need to know how to throw it, make them play games. So if you need lesson plans, just call. And she managed to teach these girls that had even hit one squash ball in their lives. They didn't know what squash was. And now we've trained over 8 women coaches, and now 5 of them are full-time squash coaches. And they've only started playing 1 year ago. So that's a testament that anyone can be a coach. You don't need to be the best player to be a good coach, and it's just teaching them how to hit the ball, just with those bases, the kids can take it from there. So that was something we did, and every 3 months, we have new interns that learn to play squash, and even our English teachers are psychology interns, and now they're full-time staff, or educators, and now they also coach squash. They had no knowledge of squash, and they can teach anyone to play now. So that's an idea for you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Michael, I was interested by your comment about the transition from the volunteers through to obviously needing to be able to fund the grassroots of the sport, and I'm very interested in the grassroots, thinking at how we bring more people into the sport. So I was just wondering if you could expand on that, because obviously having a great volunteer network is great to a point, but I'm also very aware that we as a sport need to be more commercially minded, particularly at the bottom end.
Well, we very early on worked closely with the clubs, and often, there are anchor clubs in each region where, look, I'm lucky Roehampton's a big old wealthy club that has, a lot of capability, but you go around the cities and you see the Priory here in Birmingham, Wolverhampton, the clubs out there that have a lot of capability. So often, if we can share with them some of the cost, and if we can, a coach is not going to want to drive 2 hours or even 45 minutes to deliver 2 hours of coaching. You have to come back because the cost to it. But if we can bolt it on to some existing other programs, then it's such that we can offer 2 hours or 2.5 hours, or say 2 hours of coaching with us, and then the club can offer 2-3 hours. You've suddenly got an interesting block that's commercially attractive, and also, we do also run into coaching problems, no question. Not your level of challenge. We are still. We'll run into some cities where there's no squash coach, and then we may actually do pickleball or that. But normally we can find a base infrastructure, and then and then we try and work with them just to give them some form of career path and improvement. And I do worry actually a little bit about squash in this country, because even places like Surrey, there's not many youngsters coming in because the career path, just economic career path isn't there. So we haven't found a solution, but we're part of a package that may engage them.
There's one more there.
Sorry.
Yeah, I have a question, I guess, for anyone who wants to answer, just about scaling in general. Even in the U.S., there's what, 2,500 kids involved with SEA programs across the entire country. 2,500 kids is a lot of kids, but there's millions of school-age kids who don't have access to quality after-school programs in America. So my question is just, in any of the countries if you work in, do you feel like there is the possibility even for a more large-scale scaling of squash, or are the constraints of finances and coaches and courts just that it's sort of forever destined to be a somewhat of a niche sport?
I'll give that one a shot. That's a great question. It's a question we struggle with. Kevin Klipstein, U.S. Squash, is one of his access and expanding the game. We're all talking about community squash in the U.S. and how to build centers that include, not just the low income, but bring in a larger swath of society. But maybe let me just answer it a slightly different way, because I think that in order to have an impact in terms of what SEA does and in terms of what we do, I think 2,503, we're getting closer to 3,000 students, is an impact when you think about students coming three days a week, when you think about students going off to boarding school, when you think about first generation students going to college first in their families, and really the trajectory and how much that changes everybody in the family and everybody in the community when they can come back, when they come back with professional careers and jobs. So I do think that the high intensity model is something that I believe that you can lean into. And yes, it would be great to serve 10,000, 100,000 students, but I think you're going to have to sacrifice some of that transformative impact as well.
Mike wants to share with us.
Yeah, just one thing we've started to have conversations about is you obviously got the SEA, which is a sort of up to 12 years full intensity. Then Rackets Cube's more once a week for a year, 30 interventions, and then. So I see us as being quite complementary models, and then up in Portland, Maine, as opposed to Oregon, Barrett and that team has done some quite interesting stuff around their centre, where there's a sort of hybrid in between the two. So I think actually over time there's going to be those complementary models should find a way of developing in these countries, to be honest, because then I think you get much bigger potential reach, and then you can obviously spend more money, more time with where it's most needed, and you're almost like a pyramid. I also think we've got to find a way of reducing the cost of the infrastructure, and we'll talk a little bit about this next week. There are some ideas on how that could happen. Certainly in the grassroots game, you don't need glass backs in dedicated facilities. You need the ability to have kids hitting a ball against a wall, and it doesn't always have to be double dot, and that's what we need to try and work on, because we don't have a good solution in the Western world at the moment.
Can I just add
Yep,
one
sorry.
thing? I think it depends on what you want. That would be my best answer to you. Like, do you want reach or do you want a consistent impact? Like, it depends on what is your goal. I do believe that even if we tried our hardest, there's a limit that we just can't go further because we don't have facilities. Even if we tried our hardest, we just can't beat that. But I think any sport can't do that, actually. I don't think it would just be a squash problem, it would be any sport. And I agree with Michael that maybe down the line, we've even talked about adding different sports. And I don't think that's bad, You know, like other racket sports can also complement, and it's about impact and transforming children's life. It's not only about squash. So in the future, if we decide that maybe we don't have more squash courts because physically we don't really have them, we cannot build them, there's no money, but there's 6 badminton courts, I'll play badminton. You know, because at the end of the day, it's for the development of the children and get them to be active. So again, it depends on what is your end mission. Our mission is to build values for life through sport and education. That means any sport. If one day I do a ladies soccer team, I'll be the happiest. If I do rugby, the happiest. As long as they grow, that's it. But I think there's a physical capacity that we won't be able to ever do more, I think. Nicole, you want to push something?
No, I think the key message that we want to, like, for our foundation is really to get kids to be active. In Malaysia now, we have like a 40% obesity rate amongst all our kids in Malaysia, which is very high. And that also translates in the family. That's why we are working with the moms, because the moms are the ones that also set the tone in the family scope. So if we can educate all around the moms on education and food, and then also giving them the right diet. So we also offer food after our classes. We also offer transport to and from the facility. But at the same time, we just want kids to be active, know they are educated in the right way. So any kind of sport will make them get those values that we intend to give. So that's our journey as well. So any sport, so we will be speaking with Mike a little bit maybe later on. So yeah.
Adriana, you have one question?
There was a question. Yeah. One more and we finish it.
Hi, my name is Vincent. I'm over from Germany, but originally born in Dublin.
Oh.
And I came over here because of the future of squash. So I think it's very important to get kids doing sports, but my interest is naturally the grassroots of squash. And I had a look at the handball game in Ireland. And I don't know if you know what the game is like. Mm-hmm. It's a 4-wall game where you play a ball onto the wall with your hand. Mm-hmm. And you had a picture of a wall ball.
Wall ball, yeah.
That's
we
right.
do wall ball, yeah.
And I asked myself the question, does squash need 4 walls? There are some courts have 3 walls. Some are mobile and they have folding walls. And I found out that Ireland and handball has 500 one-wall courts in schools in Ireland. And I said, God, why don't we do that with squash as well? Yeah. And I'm experimenting at the moment with one-wall squash. Mm-hmm. I've got my racket, or squash 57 rackets. Yeah. I've got the ball that doesn't bounce as much. I've got lines on the wall. You can play it indoor in a school hall. You can paint it onto the wall of the school outside. Yeah. It's an answer for indoor, it's an answer for outdoor, and all it's doing is feeding kids into the sport with the name of squash, with the opportunity to go to the squash court at some stage later over coaching. Coaching is easy, it's not a hard game to play, and that would mean my solution for the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we agree. The reality is not many schools, state schools, are going to afford to build a squash court. And in fact, I'm not even sure, other than for marketing and specifics, there is one here in Aston which served the purpose. But generally, they're not going to do it, and they shouldn't. But we work closely with Warball. They have a real coaching problem because they're a brand new sport. But yeah, it's a duct tape, and you can use. They have proper tennis balls, proper balls, but we use tennis balls. And for literally £1.20, you can mark up a court in a school, and it's safe. You can then, when they get a bit more coherent, competent, you can add a racket. You don't need a racket. So no, we have no issues about that at all. And then I think for squash, the key though is Pickle's coming, by the way, paddle's coming. We just got to, I don't know if we'll be the first sport, but we do need to bridge into them. There are opportunities, and if we do them as a threat, they're going to just steamroller us. We've got to work with them. We've got to work with them.
I have one comment for you. So in LA, we just partnered with a school that has the 3-wall, the regular concrete 3-wall. And this summer in LA, we're doing camp for 600 kids using 3 walls, no back wall. And we can teach for a long time without a back wall. We can do many ways to do it. So I agree with you. That's a lot of the future, especially in places like where we live. It doesn't rain much. We can do that.